Look at the global stage of the FIFA World Cup, and you'll regularly see powerhouse nations like Uruguay making deep tournament runs. Their entire population sits at around 3.5 million people. Now, compare that to India, a nation of 1.4 billion people, with a massive, dedicated fan base that consistently turns out in record numbers to watch the sport. That sheer statistical advantage has fueled some bold promises. Back in 2019, Nita Ambani sailed in front of the country and pledged that India would be playing in the 2026 World Cup. But we aren't. Despite having the largest potential talent pool on Earth, India remains entirely absent from the global tournament, and the national team routinely struggles against countries a fraction of its size. The most common explanation you'll hear for this absence is a lack of money. The assumption is that Indian football is simply starving for cash. But this stacked bar chart of recent financial inputs tells a completely different story. Between reliance pumping funds into the domestic league, clubs paying massive franchise fees, and broadcasters securing rights, more than 5,000 crore rupees have been injected directly into Indian football. With over 5,000 crore on the table, money clearly isn't the issue. If capital and public passion are both at all-time highs, the barrier keeping India out of the World Cup has to be a failure in how that money is actually being spent. A huge portion of those funds went toward creating the Indian Super League. The goal was to build a domestic competition that mirrored the glitz, presentation, and production value of top European leagues. That capital bought modern stadiums, flashy marketing campaigns, and expensive, aging foreign marquee players to draw in crowds. The investment went straight to the roof of the sporting structure. Meanwhile, the foundation, the network of local youth academies, coaching programs, and regional scouting, was left chronically underfunded. Throwing billions at the top of the pyramid creates a highly successful television product. It gives the appearance of a thriving sports ecosystem, but it completely bypasses the actual process of engineering world-class domestic athletes. In the European model, athletic talent is integrated into a highly structured, data-driven academy system by age 6. During those exact same years, a young Indian player is usually participating in unorganized street matches, entirely isolated from professional coaching. By the time both of these players reach the professional age of 18, the gap in technical ability and tactical awareness is massive. The European player has thousands of hours of engineered repetition that the Indian player lacks. Raw passion on the streets is incredibly powerful, but statistically, it cannot overcome a decade of lost, highly structured athletic development. Because there is no reliable pipeline, the national team has survived largely on the back of a generational anomaly, Sunil Chhetri. For years, his individual brilliance masked the cracks in the system. But resting your entire international offensive strategy on the shoulders of one aging player is a massive vulnerability. When he eventually retires, there is no one waiting in the wings with the same pedigree. Elite footballing nations don't cross their fingers and wait for a savior to be born. They build repeatable assembly lines designed to produce them on schedule. Recently, a heated debate has emerged over a potential shortcut, the Overseas Citizen of India, or Sporting Passport loophole. This legal pathway would allow the national team to immediately recruit elite diaspora athletes like Jan Donda, who already hold European Academy pedigrees. Drafting players who learned their trade in the UK or Spain might help India win a few more matches next year, but it's a stopgap. It borrows the end results of another country's grassroots system instead of fixing the systemic flaws in India's own. Any conversation about Indian sports eventually hits the cultural elephant in the room: cricket. Cricket dominates because the BCCI engineered a flawless grassroots-to-stadium pipeline, the exact system Indian football lacks. A 10-year-old playing cricket in a remote district has a clear, visible, and heavily scouted pathway. If they perform, they move up the regional ranks, into state teams, and eventually into the national spotlight. Cricket's success reaches beyond cultural popularity. The sport maintains a total monopoly on structural and organizational efficiency. World Cup qualification is a decades-long pursuit that cannot be fast-tracked with TV rights or sudden cash injections at the professional level. To actually compete, the thousands of crores currently floating around Indian football must be pivoted away from top-tier entertainment. The money has to go into the unglamorous, invisible work of building regional scouting networks and youth academies. Having a population of 1.4 billion people simply means you possess the largest field of unplanted seeds on the planet. But that potential means nothing until you finally commit to building the soil.